Oh,
Hey.
lab or golden?
This is a little golden retriever. His name's
Oh,
Cooper. He's about 8 weeks old, and he is already the absolute love of my life.
FanSided Insider Robert Murray joining us right now. Robert, great to see you, man. How's everything?
Everything is good, man. It's good to be back. It's been a long time. I appreciate you boys
Yeah,
having me again on the show.
of course. All right, let's get right into it. I want to start with Roki Sasaki. Your thoughts? We've covered him quite a bit, even last week, talking about him as a pitcher. Then the news comes out over the weekend. What do you think as far as how the pitches are going to go and how you weigh the chance that he doesn't end up with the Dodgers or even maybe a Padres play here?
Yeah, I think there's been a ton of Dodgers talk among everyone in the media. I've heard the exact same thing on my end. I expect them to be a firm player in this sweepstakes. I mean, you can say that about any big free agent when it comes to the Dodgers, but I think this is a really unique situation for them where they wouldn't have to break the bank in order to sign him, at least as of this point right now. They can get him like pretty affordable, and I think that plays for them, but it also plays for almost any team in baseball. And if you're looking for pitching, which I mean, every team in baseball is doing that, obviously. You have to pursue a guy like this because it's a really unique opportunity to sign a guy for potentially like pretty cheap. And he can end up being a frontline starting pitcher for you now going forward. And I think it's going to be the Dodgers that get the most talk, the Padres. I think the Rangers make a lot of sense. I think the Cubs make a lot of sense. I think almost any big market team makes a lot of sense. I could even see a team like the Milwaukee Brewers making some sense because there's been reports about him really valuing pitching development and player development and being in a really good situation. And the Brewers have been one of the best teams in terms of developing pitchers. I'm not saying I've heard the Brewers connected to him, but I think that's a team that could make some sense.
I think every team should be involved in Sasaki, especially. I mean, the Brewers. Yeah, why not? I mean, it'd be amazing. The Brewers fans would love him, but I mean, we'll see. We'll
He's
see.
not going there.
And every
We'll
team
see.
can afford him because he's not unaffordable. That's the key to Sasaki. He's not unaffordable. But my real question though is we've been talking about Juan Soto already for feels like months. It's only been a few days, but it feels like months. And then Sasaki hits the market. Are either of these teams going to hold up the winner like last year was Shohei and some other guys, right? Because I just had a report where I read where it's going to be quick moving, but then you wrote a report that says it's going to be a slow moving winner. So is it because of Soto and Sasaki, or can we get a move on this year and let's try to figure this out so we don't have to wait till January or February to figure out where guys are going?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a winter, and I know I'm going up against Jeff Passan on this one, but I'm thinking this could be a pretty slow start to the offseason here, and I think Soto's going to hold things up. I think there could be a multitude of different factors. I've had numerous team like high-ranking executives tell me that they're bracing for a pretty slow winter for just exactly how this offseason is going to end up playing out. So maybe things change. I mean, I would firmly expect there's going to be players who sign before Juan Soto. But I don't expect Soto to sign before the winter meetings. I could see Boris wanting to have him sign during the winter meetings so he can end up having as much spotlight on that signing as possible because we're talking about a historic contract when it comes to him. And when you have Soto and he expecting to get between like probably 500 to 600 million, that's going to be ownership level where they're involved, and that always slows up the process as well. So I'm thinking it could be kind of a similar situation, kind of like last year, where teams were waiting for Ohtani to sign. And then there was kind of the floodgates that opened up afterwards. Maybe that ends up happening again. I kind of anticipate that being the case, but you can never say never because the offseason is always kind of unpredictable.
Who's most affected by Juan Soto not signing or signing? What player? Because there's no comp for Juan Soto. There's no like, ooh, well, if they don't get Juan Soto, like this is a good second. Like it's Juan and it's everybody else. But who is most affected by Juan not signing?
I think it's all like the upper level players because Soto's going to end up being like the number one player on the market for a lot of these different teams. We've heard about it with the Yankees, with the Mets, with the Red Sox, with the Giants, with the Blue Jays, all of these other teams. And you have to admit, or you have to think that all of these teams that are in that sweepstakes are going to wait for Soto to sign until they're able to act on a guy like a Corbin Burns or an Alex Bregman or a Blake Snell or a Max Fried or players of that caliber. So I'm thinking it's just going to it's going to impact the upper level guys, like basically across the board. Maybe one ends up slipping through the cracks and ends up getting a deal done before Soto. But I would think we're looking at some of these mid-tier guys like a Nathan Eovaldi or just some of these other like mid-tier guys could end up signing before then. But I'm just expecting the upper level guys to take a little bit of time here.
Robert, have you heard anything about budget plans for teams that have been question marks? And I'm talking about mostly big market teams that haven't always acted like that recently. So I'll throw a bunch of teams out there and just let me know if there's any that stand out to you. Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. I'll throw Seattle in there because just like last year, there are still some people who think they're going to suddenly make a big splash. And I'm like, hell no. But yeah, help me out here.
Yeah, I think some of those teams that you listed make a whole lot of sense. And I'll start with Boston. I left the GM meetings. That was one of my number one takeaways, is that I think the Red Sox are going to be really in a position to spend here. And that's not coming from people like inside the organization, but that's people who have interacted with people inside the Red Sox. And I have been very skeptical, both on this show and on my podcast, The Baseball Insiders, that I've just been really skeptical and critical of them not spending in previous years. And I've said that's a direct reflection on ownership. But I've left the GM meetings way more optimistic about their chances of spending potentially significant dollars this offseason than I have in previous offseasons. So we'll see if that's all talk or if they're actually going to match those words up with some action. And I think you look at a Juan Soto type who could transform their lineup. You can look at like a Corbin Burns or a Max Fried or a Blake Snell who would really add to that upper level pitching staff for them, because that last year they really needed some pitchers and they did not go out and get them. And I think that was a mistake, especially after losing Lucas Giolito. I mean, it's harder to make a move early in the season than it is at mid-season, but they really didn't end up getting some solid reinforcements at the deadline. I think it kind of cost them, but I think they have a chance to right that wrong. And I left the GM meetings really expecting them to do so.
Can you give us more info on that without obviously, your sources or who you talk to? Because Red Sox fans are sick and tired of hearing it. They're sick and tired of hearing that, and they're tired of going through GMs. They're tired of seeing ownerships buying other sports franchises and other sports in general. So what is going to make a Red Sox, if you have to, because we have one of our producers one of our directors is a Red Sox fan. You have to convince him.
Oh, I'll try my best to convince him. And he's got every right to be skeptical. Their actions or lack thereof in previous years have kind of given him every reason to be skeptical. But I think they have a real strong leadership group in Craig Breslow. And you also look at Alex Cora. I'm not saying Chaim Bloom wasn't a really good executive there. I think he's a really talented guy who'll do well in St. Louis. But they have a really strong leadership group, and they have a team last year that really outperformed expectations. And they showed flashes. They showed glimpses of being a really strong playoff caliber team. And I think if you look at it, you can end up adding a upper level starting pitcher, and you continue to upgrade the lineup. It's going to be tough to add a guy like Corbin Burns and Juan Soto. My guess, and that's just purely what this is you got to get one or the other. And to me, with the way I've got to be really careful with how I exactly go about this because I don't want to burn anyone. But I left there pretty optimistic that they're just going to spend. You're going to have to take my word for it. If they don't end up spending, you can have me on the show again. You can play this clip, and you can play the clown music. You can absolutely do that. But I left there pretty optimistic.
Okay, before I ask the question I really wanted to ask, which is about the Marlins, which we'll get to next, another big spender in the market. What does spending look like? Because you could do a mid-level spending where you sign 4 or 5 guys and it adds up to like 50, 60 million. Or are we talking, as they said last year, full throttle, where they go back to the 2000 to 2007 Red Sox, and they're actually really trying?
Yeah, and those full throttle comments, I remember when they said those, and I was just like, oh boy, here we go. And then they ended up rescinding those comments. I would say, obviously, there's been reports today about Juan Soto being atop their wish list, and they're going to meet with him in California along with Soto's agent, Scott Boras. So I think you look at that as at least one possibility, or you can end up going out and spending significant dollars on like a Fried or a Burns or a Snell. I honestly think a Max Fried type in Boston would be an incredible fit. And I could see that being a potential match there for sure. I think I'm not optimistic about their chances with Soto. I think the Yankees, the Mets, and maybe even the Blue Jays could end up being way more motivated suitors there. But I think there's a fair chance that they could end up leaving the offseason with one of those upper-level starting pitchers. That's at least my feel as of right now.
Got it. By the way, they checked in on like Yamamoto and Shohei, and they didn't sign them either. They weren't even close. So I mean, anyone can. I'm going to check in with Soto too. Maybe he'll play for my play for the local team down the street. I don't know, the town team here in Orlando. I don't know, but I mean, it's not.
Wait, can I report that? Sources say. Can I report that you checked in? Yeah.
I checked in. Yeah, I called Boris yesterday and said, "Hey, I'll make an offer to."
We could
Soto.
do it. Like you could definitely call and do it. Or
yeah,
text.
I checked in. I just hey Scott, I'm checking in to see how Soto's doing. Thanks.
We have his number.
If he wants to sign here, yeah, we'd love to have him. Thank you. Okay, yeah,
All right.
I mean, that's I hate that. I hate that we're having meetings. We're checking in. Anyways, let's get to this. The Marlins. Okay, another big spender. You know, they're going all in. They're going full throttle. They hired a new manager. Why did it take so long? Clayton McCullough, he's been out there for a while. The World Series ended a while ago. Why did it take so long for the Marlins then to finally figure this out? Was it just an organizational thing? Was it McCullough the guy they wanted the whole time?
I don't think McCullough was a guy that they wanted the whole time. To me, they ended up identifying Will Venable and Albernaz in Cleveland as two of their top guys, and they ended up swinging and missing on both guys. Albernaz decided to stay in Cleveland, while Will Venable ended up going to the Chicago White Sox. And after that, they kind of had to regroup and figure out exactly where they were going to go. And at the GM meetings, they were telling people that they were getting close to hiring a manager. They were down to a couple different options there. And McCullough ended up being their guy. And as I said, I don't believe he was their top guy. I had heard different things throughout the interview process that, I don't know, that he wasn't like the top option for some of these teams that he had talked to. And I think he's going to end up having to really surround himself with some veteran coaches in Miami to really be in a position to succeed, because he's obviously was a base coach. He's really highly respected within the Dodgers organization, but he's a first-time manager. He's stepping into a place that is pretty far away from contending, and it's going to be all about player development. And if you can add some guys who can end up being real strong player development guys on that coaching staff, I think they're going to end up being in a good spot. But he's raw. I know there's some people who had some questions after the interview process that maybe he didn't interview the best. So we'll see exactly how he does in Miami. But he was their guy. They ended up just agreeing to a deal with him a couple of days ago, and now he's the lead man there in Miami.
This holiday season, I want to give a gift to my loved ones that makes them feel special and unique. That gift is StoryWorth.
Here's how it works. Each week, StoryWorth emails your loved one a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick. Things like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? And what's the farthest you've ever traveled? All your loved one needs to do is respond with a story. Long or short, it doesn't matter. After that year of fun, StoryWorth compiles those stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. This is the perfect book to pass along at family gatherings or read with your kids. It is beautifully orchestrated by StoryWorth, and that's why it has more than 35,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago.
With StoryWorth, I'm giving those I love most a thoughtful personal gift from the heart and preserving their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/foul and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/foul to save $10 on your first purchase.
Let's get to a team in a somewhat similar spot right now, the Chicago White Sox, coming off a ridiculously bad season. So the question I have for you is a timing question. When do you think Garrett Crochet trade talks really heat up? Do you think this will be a situation where we see where everyone sits in terms of the pitchers on the market, and then it's like Dylan Cease heading into the season and the Padres finally make the offer that the White Sox like? Do you think it's going to be that kind of timing, end of offseason, because you kind of clear the board first?
Yeah, I think Crochet's got a shot to be traded around the winter meetings time. I really do. And they considered a multitude of different things at the deadline, and they had some late offers at the deadline that they really considered, but ultimately it was not enough for them to do it. And we were talking to Chris Getz at the GM meetings, and he made it clear that they already have more teams interested now than they did at the deadline. And whether or not that's posturing, I don't know. But I'm not surprised in the slightest that he's getting this kind of interest because he's signed cheap. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball last year, and he really just exceeded expectations there. And you can look at so many different. I think Boston makes a lot of sense for them too, or for Crochet. I think you look at even the Padres; they could make some sense. I mean, I wonder if a team like the Angels could be in. I mean, it just again that's speculation on my part. But Perry, I think he even said on your show yesterday. I could be wrong there that they have the prospects where they can basically get any player that they want, and they need starting pitching in the worst way. Kyle Hendricks is not going to be their only rotation move. They're going to make another rotation addition this year or this offseason, I should say. But I expect Crochet to get traded this offseason. I think he's going to have an extensive market. It's going to have further rebuilding that farm system in Chicago. And I think Chris Getz made the right call holding off and not moving him at the deadline and saving it for now because it's going to allow them to get, I think, a bigger package while some team could end up having a chance to try to extend him, which is something that he's open to.
Robert, who makes the playoff first? The Bears or the White Sox? That's all I want to know. That's my question.
Who makes the playoffs first?
Yeah, the Bears or the White Sox? Because the Bears are in free fall. The White Sox were in free fall. I mean, who makes the playoffs first? Bears?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bears. Yeah, and I think they need new coaches though. I'm a believer in Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is really good. But they obviously made the change at offensive coordinator today. But man, they need a better scheme because they got the talent. They just don't. Oh man,
it's like poking my eyes with needles every time. The last couple of weeks, I'm watching their offense. Man, it's like sitting next to Scott for 3 hours.
If you want to boost, watch the Jets this past Sunday.
The Giants?
Jets.
Oh, the Jets are the Jets.
They're the least likable team I've ever seen. But anyway, Kratz, get us back on track.
I said that about the Eagles at the start of the year. Now they're 7-2, so maybe there's hope for you yet, Scott. Who knows?
No way. This team is a disaster. But thank you. I appreciate the uplifting words. Kratz, you're up.
Well, that was my last comment. So I'll go since we're talking football now. Last time you were on here, the Eagles. Not last time. One of the first times you were on here, the Eagles were 10-1, and then you absolutely put the Eagles in a free fall. Now the Eagles are 7-2, and you're back on the show again. Like let's keep that mojo away, okay?
Yeah, I swear if they lose on Thursday, I will never mention the Eagles on their show again. That would be the ultimate curse.
And Scott would appreciate that. So I'm gonna get to my actual question. Alex Bregman, what does this market look like? And are we making much to do about nothing? And he's just gonna sign back with the Astros?
I think there's a real possibility of that. And even Dana Brown, their GM, said the exact same thing when I was talking to him at the GM meetings. He said that he is their top priority, that they think that he believes that there's a good chance he returns, and that they've already had productive conversations with Bregman's agent, Scott Boras. And it's not going to just be the Astros who are involved here. There's going to be numerous different teams. I could see a team like the Seattle Mariners being involved. I know Scott will be skeptical about that because they've been kind of hesitant to spend in years past. But they need to do something to upgrade that lineup because you have a really, really good rotation there in Seattle. And if you don't supplement it with strong offense, I think that would be one of the biggest mistakes of the offseason because they have the pieces there. They just need more offense. That's why I'm connecting him to Seattle. I also see a team like the Toronto Blue Jays making a lot of sense here as well. Obviously, they've already been connected to Juan Soto. They were in last year on Shohei Ohtani and some of these other stars. They obviously swung and missed on Ohtani, but the fact that they're in on Soto here and they want to compete in 2025 with Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette on the roster and their future is uncertain in Toronto, I think making a play for a star like that, like a Soto or an Alex Bregman, makes a lot of sense. In the end, I think Bregman makes the most sense for the Astros. As of last check, nothing was close, but I think they're really motivated to get a deal done. And obviously Bregman values and likes his time in Houston. And I think that could also be a factor in this as well.
I got a couple follow-ups here. I'll start with this. I mean, what about Detroit and AJ Hinch as a play? I know they have Jace Young, but I don't think they're sold on him necessarily, especially over a Bregman. I just feel like Hinch says, hey, I gained a lot of good faith here with what I just was able to do with a super, super cheap team. Now let's add pieces to do some damage here. So what do you think about that? And the fact that I love Dana Brown and he's very candid,
But he also said last year that Kyle Tucker is going to be an Astro for his career, and now he's a season away from free agency. And I'm just like, I can't see a scenario where Bregman and Tucker are Astros. I would say there's almost no chance that both of them are signed up long-term based on how the Astros operate and how much they're going to cost. We always see the Springers, the Correas, guys like that leave. They do keep some guys, but both, when they're this close, one is a free agent and the other's almost there.
Yeah, I think that's a great call by you, Scott. And you look at Tucker as well. And Dana Brown, we asked him about this too. Is he said that they did not have any plans to have extension talks with him this offseason, that they were putting Bregman as their number one priority, and that it could end up being something that they evaluate in spring training or even like during the regular season. And it's not usual to have negotiations like that in season. Typically teams keep that like during the offseason to kind of just avoid a distraction. So I think you're spot on for pointing that out. To me, it would probably be one or the other. I'm really curious to see exactly what direction they would go in. Obviously, the injury to Tucker last year really impacted him, and that probably could have ended up tabling some discussions there as well. But as far as the fit for Detroit and Bregman, I do think it makes sense, especially with the fact that he's willing to play some different positions in the infield, like second base and third base, is what Boris ended up telling us in San Antonio. I wonder if the Javi Baez contract could give them some hesitancy, or could make them a little bit hesitant. I would doubt it, but Bregman is obviously a player that they're really familiar with, especially Hinch from their time in Houston. A lot of familiarity there. I can't imagine he's going to end up breaking. Like, I wouldn't imagine he's going to making $200 million. It's going to be lower than that, I would imagine. And to me, I think if you're the Tigers, you have a really strong young core. You're ascending. I think Detroit's going to end up being a place where players want to go. We've already seen Michael Lorenzen thrive there when he ended up going, trying to make his move to the rotation. We saw Jack Flaherty really enjoy his time in Detroit, and I've heard since then that he absolutely loved it there. And I got to imagine there's going to be other players who see just the kind of impact that they're having in Detroit, and they're going to want to flock there, because I truly am it's very rare you can say that you're high on what the Tigers are building. But Scott Harris and AJ Hinch have a really good thing going there. And it wouldn't be surprising at all to see some of these players really want to kind of go into Detroit now.
Yeah, and you're in the AL Central. You can do damage pretty quickly. Yeah, that's a big edge.
Quickly.
So my one other follow-up, of course, is going to be on the Mariners. It's a team that I probably watch the most late nights, and I get frustrated even though the pitching is sick. There's no way they're signing Alex Bregman. No way. I mean, Ken Rosenthal came out the other day and said, he essentially said there's no way they're signing a player for $100 million. He said he thinks their payroll is going to go up a little bit, but that's because they have so much talent, and many of them are hitting arbitration now, so they're going to cost them. Some of our fans in the chat actually brought a good idea, because we were talking about Alec Boehm potentially on the block. That might be a good fit. The Mariners definitely need a third baseman, and a third baseman who can hit. Boehm's got the hit tool. I think it would play well in Seattle. That is much more of a play for them in my mind than bringing in someone like Bregman. This ownership group has been very, very firm that they are not going to operate like that.
No, I totally agree. And I knew as soon as I ended up saying that, because I had it in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, Scott's going to win this one. And lo and behold, you did not disappoint. So I appreciate you keeping me honest on that one. I'm not saying it was the most likely option by any means. I do think Boehm makes a lot of sense for Seattle. It wouldn't break the bank at all. I mean, it'll take a little bit to get him, because he's a really good young player. But the Phillies really want to kind of shake things up a little bit. And because I think after last year and exactly what ended up playing, or how it played out, where they got eliminated early, they're going to keep that core, like that really strong high-end core. But I think after that, almost anyone is going to end up being available, and Boehm is going to end up fitting that category. And I can't imagine he's going to end up being the Mariners would be alone in that race at all for Boehm. There's going to be plenty of different teams that are going to be involved in that. But to me, that makes a lot of sense. If you can end up adding, one thing I learned at the GM meetings, and I think everyone kind of knows this, is they're really happy with where their outfield is, but they really want to improve the infield. And if you can get a Boehm type, if you can end up getting another player as well that can really elevate the offense, then I think the Mariners could be cooking with gas. When you have the good upgrade in the infield and upgrade the offense and pair that with that pitching staff, there could be a really good thing going there. I expect them to do it, but as I said, I think Bregman could be pretty unlikely, but they will upgrade the offense. I feel pretty confident in that.
Anything at this point is an upgrade to the offense.
True.
All right, so you recently got a new family member. Did we get a new family member there?
That is true.
Cooper.
Nice.
Come on,
Oh, Cooper's coming in.
Do you mind if I stand up and get him?
Yeah.
No, go
of
ahead.
course
I love
not.
dogs. Kratz
Yes.
hates dogs. I love
Oh,
dogs.
stop it. Bella is a gem. The only reason I go to Studio Kratz is to hang out with Bella. Sorry,
All right,
Kratz.
everybody, meet Cooper.
Oh.
Hey.
Lab or golden?
This is a little golden retriever. His name's Cooper.
Oh.
He's about 8 weeks old, and he is already the absolute love of my life. He's gotten so much love. And yeah, say hi, everybody.
Hey, what's up, Cooper? Wait, can I see, give us a side angle of the size here of the pup?
Oh, he's tiny. He's little
Golden
baby.
retrievers get pretty big. Oh.
He's a little guy. By the way, you're going to be tired because he's going to wear you out. So you better
Good.
just get ready for walk after walk after walk.
Dude, I'm not even kidding you. I've run with, I am not a runner. I am many things. A runner is not one of them, but I have run more in the last 4 days than I have in probably the last 10 years combined. He's keeping me honest, but he is a very good boy. He's very loved. And he's now, he's my best friend. So welcome to the show, Coop.
There you go. Welcome to the show. And he's making his TV debut. It's good for you though, because Robert, you're obviously you're an insider. You're on the phone. You're inside a lot. All of that. He'll get you outside. He'll keep you in shape. He'll keep you young. So Cooper, make sure you do your thing and be as annoying as possible, and make sure Daddy-O goes outside. So Robert, congrats.
He's already got more sources than I do, so he's already a good insider. Good job, Coop.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say he's cute. He's got the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats on the addition, and thanks for joining us. Good to see you. We'll chat again, of course, sometime this offseason, all right?
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.